Recording. What are they looking at? Oh, I don't see a picture though. But it says recording. How
Yeah,
come
they
they
don't need to see it because it's only one location.
You're right. Yes.
It's not being.
So let me
She's
call her
probably-
back.
She's probably panicking because she wants to see herself.
Yes. Let me call Tim back. He's from Java Center.
But now you
Yes?
just included you in this, so you might want to hang up.
Okay.
Hey, Anna.
Hi, Tim. How we doing?
So we're okay with that.
What's that?
9 acres, and then we
But we
have an
don't have a
option to
capital
buy the
house
8
for
acres
this,
from
the
the
capital house.
Chinese companies.
Okay,
Look
right.
at the Long Island.
Condos
Guys,
and
since
those,
you walked this way?
meeting with the city council and the planning commission.
That's still going on. You know, those places, that hospital is fine. It was the first place I ever worked, was in Mercy Hospital. My first job.
Well, that's where we had our miscarriage
Start?
a long time ago.
Okay, good afternoon. We now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York Convention Center Development Corporation for Wednesday, December 13th, 2017. I'd like to note for the record that this meeting is being webcast. Directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask any questions at any time. Please note that we welcome public comment on any items on the agenda. To ensure maximum opportunity for participation, speakers representing themselves may speak for up to 2 minutes each, and those representing groups may speak for up to 4 minutes with one speaker per group. Speakers' comments may address only the items considered at today's meeting. Before we begin with the portion of the meeting, I would like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the items on today's agenda. If so, I'd ask you to please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. We will then be sure that you may recuse yourselves from any discussion or vote with regard to such item or items. Hearing none, we will turn to our first order of business, which is the approval of the minutes of the last meeting, or the last two meetings, of June 14th, 2017 and October 18th, 2017. Give a motion, please. So moved. Second?
Second.
Any comments, additions, deletions? If not, we'll deem the motion passed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just mention, after we act on the necessary actions, could we follow up on one of the items raised in the minutes? And
Of course.
thanks. And also, I'd like to just note, I wasn't present at the last meeting, and so I can't vote to approve.
I had the flu.
Okay, any other comments,
They had
additions,
a flu
deletions? Okay, if not, the motion carries. Robin Stout, the president of the corporation, will now present a request to approve, among other things, certain capital improvement projects at Javits. Robin?
Thank you. Just a couple of housekeeping items. We are almost up to date on the minutes. We're actually missing the September meeting because the transcript was delayed, but with that, we'll bring those minutes to you at the next board meeting, and that will bring us up to date, included with the minutes of this meeting. And the second thing to note is that I greatly appreciate everyone being here today. It's a short agenda for the Development Corporation, but it was important to pull us all together for the Operating Corporation meeting to come. And also the DC item is also extremely important in terms of, as you will hear, OC capital improvements. So the directors will recall that CCDC entered into a funding agreement with OC, pursuant to which OC can undertake certain capital improvement projects to be funded by DC, subject to CCDC approval. As is set forth in your board materials, the CCDC directors have authorized a collective general total of $18.5 million for these capital repair items. From that amount, the directors have approved expenditures totaling approximately 17 million, about 17.1 million. The difference is in the way that projects evolve. Some of them don't always take the amount of capital that are authorized. And so at the moment, we have about $1.34 million of authorized but uncommitted funds, which leads us to the items in your materials today. OC has requested funding for three important capital repair items, which are listed in your director materials. The first is perimeter security at 34th Street. Those gates control and secure building access for trucks using the loading docks located on the first and third levels of existing Javits, and they have exceeded their life expectancy, and therefore it is important that those be replaced. That item would be $760,000. The next is for a continuing evolution of the East Egress project. The amount of that project has gone back and forth for a bit, but it is now important to do the inner roadway sidewalk at 34th Street to accommodate a proper flow of traffic. That item is $150,000. And the last of the three is an elevator mechanical upgrade, which would install new controllers in the elevators, which will enhance safety, performance, reliability, and serviceability. And also, quite importantly, will provide for communication between the elevators and the building's new fire alarm, which the directors authorized payment for some meetings ago. That last item is for $400,000. The collective total for these items is $1.31 million, which is below the remaining amount of uncommitted funds. And so at this time, we would ask for the director authorization to spend those uncommitted funds on these three projects.
Questions for Robin on that? Or for Alan, who's joining us? Okay, if not, we'll need a motion, correct?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the public on that? If not, we'll consider the motion passed. The next item, which is not for action but for information only, will be Robin's President's Report.
Thank you. The President's Report this month is divided into three separate segments. I will give an update on the construction. We will give an update to the directors on the diversity goals for the project and how we are working to meet them. And the third part is in response to director questions from one or two meetings ago about the status of the insurance for CCDC. And there's a chart that I'll lead you through in front of you for that third piece. But to start off with the construction update. As I've said before, I'll say again, the transformer and the expansion construction activities are in full swing. You will recall that the transformer building is a three-story structure that topped out some time ago. In the recent past, the concrete floors for that structure have been laid. Fireproofing is ongoing and is expected actually to conclude shortly. Masonry will be up next. The transformers themselves and the emergency generators have either been received already or in storage, or in storage, or are on order. So everything's flowing together well with the transformer building. The utility coordination in terms of the electrical and the water and the sewer and the cable are all coming together very well under David Thurm's very close guidance, which we appreciate. As I think I've said before, a critical milestone date for the transformer building will be in the spring of 2018, when they will have finished the need for any exterior staging, at which point they can return the site to Lindley's Turner to continue its expansion. And to date, that interim milestone of spring of next year for ending the external staging is still on target. The expansion itself, if you haven't had a chance to go to the site again, I reiterate, I'd be happy to take any of the directors to the site. There's a tremendous amount of work going on. It really changes virtually day to day, but certainly week to week. I've had 2 site visits in the past month, and it was radically different between the 2 site visits. The excavation is well underway. It is, as I said before, it is starting from 12th Avenue and extending towards 11th Avenue. One of the first things that was done was basically to dig out most of the portion of the site just south of 40th Street. So that trench has already been dug. But also the excavation then coming from 12th towards 11th is maybe a quarter of the way across already. At the same time, caissons are going in. One of the items of coordination between the transformer project and the expansion project was Tishman, as the construction manager at risk for the transformer, allowed their staging area to be used by Lindley's Turner for a short period of time, so that Lindley's Turner could get a jump on excavating and putting in caissons in that area, which is now completed and has been covered back over, and that staging area has been turned back to Tishman as CBAR for its staging for the transformer. But we're ahead of the game because the excavation and the caissons have already been laid through that area. So when Tishman's done with it, we will have already done the caissons under that area. But As the excavation comes from the west to the east, caissons are following right behind. What you're going to see over the next 6 months or so is that excavation is going to continue all the way to 12th Avenue. And with it, following behind it, will be cranes that are dropping the caissons in, again, from west to the east. So the excavation will be rolling eastward towards 11th. And the cranes then will be dropping the foundations, will be following right behind that, again, starting at 12 and rolling off to 11th. That will be what's the primary activity down on the site for the next 6 or 8 months or so. And then the erection of steel will actually begin, which will be very exciting. Obviously, we continue to work very closely with our partners who you've heard about before. DASNY is our permitting agency. David Thurm, again, as our project manager or owner's rep, is on the site hourly. The field office is opened with Lindley's Turner and with the PM over at 34th and 10th, so right next to the site. People have easy access. As you heard at our last meeting, the Integrity Monitor and the Inspector General are paying very close attention to this project. And of course, we are in daily contact with our builders, Tishman and Lindley's Turner. That's my construction update. I would stop there and ask if anyone has any questions about the construction update, or if David, if there are other details that you would like to talk about. No? Any questions on the construction update?
Are you going to have a discussion of money, or are there no money issues?
I can have a discussion of money, David. I actually, as I was going back through the minutes, David, I noted that as well, and I just said to Henry, what's happened so far is, the directors may remember, we have had a mobilization payment, which was paid in early summer for just south of $50 million, about 48.5 or so. We have paid 2 invoices since then, basically for work in August and September. The total of those invoices together is roughly $20 million. We have 2 more invoices which are under review at the moment, which total approximately another $20 million. So we are getting some healthy money under our belt as expended in return for that good work being done in connection with the excavation and the dropping of the caissons. And so, David, what I thought I would do is for the next meeting, I just said this to Henry as an aside, that for the next meeting would bring to the directors what you had previously requested, which is basically a cash flow analysis of how the expenditures are matching the projected cash flow with a detailed series of charts as to both monies expended to date and then the expectation of the future cash flow.
That would be helpful.
If there are any more questions today, I'd be happy to answer them.
That would be helpful, and that's actually the question I was going to ask before.
Yes, okay.
But I did just want to ask the overarching question, as long as we're discussing money, which is, do you today feel that it's adequately funded, or do you see funding issues for the project?
Find some wood to knock on. The answer is we believe it is adequately funded. The directors will recall that the base price of the expansion project is $1.213, I believe, billion. There's $50 million of owner's contingency, and there is $50 million of FF&E fixture, furnishing, and equipment. We have begun to discuss the expenditure of some of the owner contingency dollars, but we still think we're well within the range of dollars needed, and to date we are not expecting to need further dollars.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that?
So part 2, as I said, the directors will recall, in a previous meeting we heard from David Thurm as our project manager. Last meeting I asked our integrity monitor, Paul Ryan, to tell you what was happening in connection with the integrity monitoring of the project. And today I've asked Tracy Mitchell to discuss the project diversity program and what CCDC is doing to assist our builders, Tishman and Lindley's Turner, in meeting their diversity goals. So Tracy, you want to introduce yourself and give us a brief explanation?
Sure. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tracy Mitchell, and I've been hired to oversee the MWVE utilization for the Javits project. There's a 30% goal. It's a hefty goal, and we're going to work towards meeting it. The first thing that we're doing to oversee that component is to put together a plan that identifies MWBE opportunities that add up to that goal amount. At the end of the day, it may not happen. It may not reach the goal amount, but by putting a plan, a good faith effort towards meeting that plan, we monitor their good faith efforts towards meeting that plan. So at the end of the day, if we meet it, great news. And if we don't meet it, we could, concur that they demonstrated good faith efforts towards meeting that goal. Right now, the first part is to getting that plan together. We're working with them. They submitted a plan. We went back to identify more opportunities towards that goal amount. We hope to get an approved plan within the next month or so, I believe. They submitted their first report of good faith efforts. The outline is good. We needed more documentation, but it's a good start. I think by me being at the project office, I'm able to lend more assistance to them. In a situation like this, it's about building relationships. So rather than being at the ESD offices, being co-located with them is an added value. The status of the goals, right now, they're probably this early stages. And if I could say any of the projects that I'm overseeing with the Monahan and the Transformer, this project has probably the best percentage of getting towards that goal because we got there early in the project. I'm hoping that it's going to come out to a positive ending, but if not, we're going to try hard and working towards meeting that goal. So that's what we're doing. We're there to assist them and assist them in any way that we possibly can. I worked on the Tappan Zee Bridge project, and in order to assist them, I've given them a bench of DBEs and MWBEs so that they can identify minority and women-owned businesses already that have the capability of doing large jobs. So that's my story.
Okay.
Tracy, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So is it the understanding when we're going through this type of process, and I'm very familiar with it because I deal with it in the hospital industry, are you taking the position that it should be at a cost-neutral position? Is the theory of what we're trying to do in this particular situation that this is cost-neutral, or that the goals of hitting 30% are more important than the cost of achieving, than the cost of the project?
That's staying in budget.
Yeah,
or,
yeah, staying
on
within,
plan.
yeah.
We'll stay within the budget, absolutely. So 30% of the total budgeted amount, not to go over the budgeted amount.
But
Yes.
are we taking the position that the overall project, even in hitting these goals, are done at the same total cost it would be done if there weren't these mission goals? I'm not disagreeing with the mission of 30%, so on the record, not disagreeing with it. I want to understand the theory behind the actual cost implementation. Are we willing to spend more money, even if it's in the context
It's
of the
interesting
overall
that
budget?
it's
That's what
interesting
I'm
that you
asking.
say that
Just
because
asking.
even the regulations would say that if you need to pay more money to get MWB participation,
No,
right?
but-
So does that go over the budget?
But
That
I
is
do-
not the intent.
Yeah, but Lee, I think, I don't know how much we're going to help you with, because your industry is going to be, remember, this is a lump sum contract. This
I
is,
understand that.
This is a design-build number, which had, at the time that the contract was built, there was a request for a number, but that number recognized that this 30% goal was going to be part of what they were doing.
Right.
So we don't.
So they're responsible.
Yes.
They, the design builder, are responsible for hitting these goals, irrespective of what margin they may have in achieving those goals.
Correct. I mean, just to be clear, I mean, we're not anticipating, I haven't been party to any particular study that I recall, but we're not anticipating that the MWBE component of this job would be somehow significantly beyond the work component of non-MWBEs. But having said that, to the extent that it is or may be, or the MWBEs that Lindley Turner decides to hire are for some reason more expensive, that will not be the government's problem. Lindley Turner has committed to doing the project at this price with those goals accomplished.
Within that budgeted amount.
And I understand that, but is it true? I really want to understand this, and I feel everybody should understand this. is it true that if those goals were not in, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't be more money, I'm just asking the question, if those goals were not in, do we believe the bid would have been the same amount of money? I understand the responsibility part, it's no longer our problem, I get it, but do we believe that the bid would have been the same with or without that?
I think the answer to that question is yes, because certainly in any sort of major government project, at this point, the private construction industry is used to understanding and meeting these goals. So I have no reason to think that the bid would have been different had there been zero diversity goals.
Good. That's all I want to know. And I think it's a proper question to ask and discuss and
Sure.
and be understood.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Okay, part three and last of the president's report. At the last meeting, where I believe the directors had approved a builder's risk policy, there was a general discussion about the CCDC insurance for the projects as a whole. And so there should be in front of you a piece of paper that looks like this that was distributed prior to the meeting. I'm sorry it didn't make its way into the board materials themselves, but it will be part of the board record, which indicates to you, I think it largely speaks for itself, but I will walk you through it very briefly. Up at the top, you've got our general commercial liability and excess liability. So these two rows together would constitute our liability insurance, or a total of $10 million. The effective date is through the life of the contract, through the life of the project, obviously. The CCDC board at our last meeting approved 1.6, and we are just a few dollars under that, but at least we're not a few dollars over that. And that insurance has been procured. The next two rows are the professional liability, both for the transformer and the expansion. Those had been authorized by the directors some time ago. Those are together for the price that is set forth in the last column. And then the last two rows are the builder's risk, again for the transformer and the expansion. The transformer building, you will recall, is a CMAR, a construction manager at risk. And so we have the policy there, which did not actually come to the directors because it was below the threshold necessary for director authorization. But that builder's risk has a premium period through the life of the transformer project. And then the builder's risk, which was approved in September of this year, and for a total insurable value of 1.225, as you see in the second row, through the life of the project, as set forth in the third row. And at the time we brought that to you in September, we said that we were still pricing and placing those policies. So thanks to the good work of Rose Kevel and others who have been working with us, we've come in fairly significantly under the premiums for the expansion builder's risk, for which we're very happy. We paid 2/3 of that, and the last third of that will be due sometime down the road. As the directors look at this, it's important for the directors to recognize something that's not on this sheet, but that this is in addition to and over and above all of the insurances that the developers are required to have. So, for instance, the right piece of paper here. At the transformer building, Chishman Construction is holding its own liability policies, and they have fully indemnified CCDC for anything that might go wrong on the site. And in connection with the design-build contract, Lend-Lease Turner has over $200 million of general liability insurance that they're carrying for this project, for its expansion project, and they have indemnified CCDC as well. And also in connection with professional liability, both of the developers are carrying their own professional liability policies that, again, stand in first place, and our coverage here set forth on this sheet would be over and above anything the developers are having. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and we have other insurance experts here who hopefully can get into as much detail as you would like.
Any questions for Robin?
I have a quick question on this. Speaking from recent experience at the Lower Manhattan Development Corporation. When you speak about the indemnification which was provided by the developers, can you, where exactly in their corporate structure is that located? And the reason.
No, excellent question. A very good question. Let's see if I can remember the answer to the question, because it was in connection, and Eunice, maybe you can help me with this. In connection with the expansion, which is obviously the big ticket item, as the directors may recall, Lend-Lease and Turner have formed a joint venture, Lend-Lease Turner. However, it is my recollection that the indemnities is carried by the parent of the parent corporations, Lend-Lease and Turner separately. So, David,
I'm not absolutely certain about the indemnification. I think that may be coming through the joint venture, but we have corporate guarantees from the parent type entity, in addition to the indemnification.
So, David, just your question.
You are exactly at my concern.
Yes. I mean, David's question is concerning: do we have a sufficiently deep pocket?
Well, do we have an indemnification agreement with an entity that actually has the ability to indemnify us at the level that we're concerned about?
More astutely stated, but we will double check on that. As Eunice has said, if not the indemnification itself, then there are corporate guarantees from the parents.
But I'll confirm that and get back to you.
I think that would be very helpful.
On the actual indemnification.
To get back to the board reporting
Yes,
on where this indemnity is coming from.
But we have to check that too. Yes.
Sorry, I didn't
Okay. No.
Any other questions on insurance or any other matter? Robin, anything else from you?
No.
Okay, well, I think that's our agenda for today. I want to thank everybody for coming. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish everybody a happy holiday and a happy new year.
And to you as well.
If there's no other business, we can have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Do we know when the next meeting? Sorry, Carrie. Do we know when the next meeting is, Robin?
The next meeting, I think Alan has scheduled a January meeting.
January 17th.
So that would be the meeting.
January 17th.
Here again, here at Javits.
Okay, thank you all, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have to stay for the next one, though.
You're here for the next one, too.
Oh, yes.
I can't do it now. I'm in the city every day, going 2K.
Yeah.
To Wednesday.
We'll have a full.
Wednesday?